And back to the latest on the Gaza Strip and the Israeli decision to block the entry of humanitarian aid to the territory. We are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Medhat Miligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ambassador Miligy, good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you very much for the invite. Happy Ramadan.
Happy Ramadan to you, sir. Ambassador Miligy, how do you see the Israeli decision to stop the entry of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip?
Well, I see it actually as a no surprise ever since Israel was in a certain way forced to sign the agreement prior to Trump addition to his office in the 19th of January, and has been trying to sabotage the deal all along the first phase. It's quite obvious that Israel wants to prolong the first phase that enable it to continue its aggression on the Palestinian people while having its hostages. This is what Israel is aiming at. The second phase, as we all know, is a phase that we have to stop all kinds of military aggression or military attacks on the Palestinian people, which is something Israel doesn't want to happen because, as we all know, from the beginning, Israel has vowed to totally destroy the liberation movements and the resistance movements, and to take its hostages by force. So the idea of moving to phase two will disable Israel from doing so, and this is what it doesn't want. And with the support of the United States, that has just yesterday added to the Israeli arsenal what is worth of $3 billion of weapons and ammunition, I think Israel feels it's secure that it can take any steps it wants in this direction, enjoying the support of the United States that will keep supporting it with its violations to the international law, as we have always seen. I mean, just yesterday we are talking about a number of forcibly displaced Palestinians in the West Bank, which is another war crime to be added to the long list of Israeli war crimes ever since they started, and even before the October attacks from Hamas. And unfortunately, and because of the American support, Israel continued to do so without any kind of recommendation or forced Israel to abide by the agreement it already agreed on.
Yes. Ambassador Miligy, as you have kindly mentioned, that it's that Israel is trying to manipulate in order not to enter phase two of the ceasefire agreement. Don't you see that as, till the moment, Israel is breaching the first phase of the agreement? Do you see any future for a continuation for this agreement on the ground with all these manipulations from the Israeli side?
Well, actually, this is the main goal of Israel. It wants to get its hostages to release some of the pressure that is exerted on it by the Israeli citizens and the families of the abducted Israeli citizens, and at the same time continue its war on the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip and on the West Bank in order to achieve two things. First one is to make life unbearable for the Palestinians, and accordingly, as it thinks in its strategy, that the Palestinian people would want to leave the occupied territories as a part of helping Mr. Trump in achieving his idea of evacuating the Palestinians from their territories. And second thing, which is of course a result of the first one, to liquidate totally the Palestinian cause, and once and for all, and seizing the opportunity of what happened in 7th of October to continue its aggression without any end, without any horizon for a peace talk or peace negotiations, to continue the destruction of the Palestinian people, civilian infrastructure.
Sir, as you have kindly mentioned as well, that violations not only is by stopping the entry of humanitarian aid, which is against all humanitarian law in the world, but also we are seeing violations against the Palestinians in the West Bank as well. So How do you see the situation in the West Bank on the ground now, with almost 44 days of violence started by the Israeli side, while there is no ceasefire, there is a ceasefire supposedly on the Gaza Strip?
Well, although we in Egypt and many other Arab countries and in the region are watching closely what's happening in the West Bank, but unfortunately the rest of the world is still focused on the exchange of prisoners and the first phase of the agreement in Gaza. And it's not giving enough attention of the same scenario that is being applied on the West Bank in order to, I believe, at a later stage, to seize more Palestinian land and to start building settlements on it and colonies, and actually emptying the whole Palestinian cause from its reason to be.
Yes.
Because now if there is no land to discuss or to negotiate, then what are we going to talk about? It's quite obvious that Israel is going to do whatever it can to destroy any hope for peace, and that even with the efforts of Egypt that are sincere efforts and that really try to apply the international law, as it says, that Israel enjoying the support of the United States on one hand and the silence of the rest of the world on another hand, is enabling it to continue with its plans that is not a secret anymore. Everybody knows that Israel wants just to empty the Palestinian occupied territory from the Palestinians. And this is the goal of all what he's doing, even if we are using pretext as the hostages or the aggression committed by Hamas on the 7th of October, or the retaliation of Hamas after that. All these are excuses, but the main target of Israel is to seize all the Palestinian land in order to achieve its goal by destroying the Palestinian cause once and forever, and forcibly or friendly displace the Palestinian people from their territory, as it always says that this is a better option for the Palestinians.
Indeed.
And unfortunately supported by that in this theory by the United States and President Trump.
Sir, with all these complications on the ground, the breaches of the ceasefire agreement, the violations against the West Bank, do you see any solution for the crisis on the ground with all the Palestinian suffering? And we have seen recently also calls by many Israeli officials that the Palestinians have the right to leave if they want, as the Israelis are saying.
I think the waves of Palestinians who fled, or who left actually, the south of Gaza to move once again to the totally destroyed north of Gaza, with the waves of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians going back to the ruins of their homes, show without any shred of a doubt that the Palestinians are not planning and will not leave their territories, even if there are few thousands who want to do that, but this is not the mainstream Palestinians who wants to stay on their land and have their independent state on the borders of the 4th of June 1967 with East Jerusalem as capital. This is the narrative of all the Palestinians, and this is the rhetoric of all Palestinians without a doubt. Having said that, the most important thing is how long would Israel accept a ceasefire or a cessation of violation and attacks and aggression on the Palestinian people once it received all its hostages. Egypt will retry, and definitely is already undergoing some diplomatic efforts to try to convince Israel to start the second phase of the agreement, which Israel might accept at the end of the day after the pressure of Egypt and maybe with the help of some other countries. But the idea, the most important thing is what Israel is going to do once it has received the last of its hostages. Will Israel abide by any law? I mean, what we are seeing right now doesn't give any hope or any possibility of optimism that Israel is going to respect this It doesn't even respect the agreements it signed already.
Indeed.
So will it abide by any agreement that it hasn't even discussed yet? Definitely not. So this is what worries me most, which is what will happen once Israel takes all its hostages.
Indeed.
And the remains of the one who passed away. Will it continue with the agreements? I doubt it very much, because even now it shows that it doesn't have any respect for any international law or anything, unfortunately.
Ambassador Medhat Miligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much, sir, for your precious input. And our dear viewers will go to a short break, and after that we'll be back to resume our program, so stay tuned. Welcome back, our dear viewers. Syria's interim president Ahmed al-Shara announced on Sunday the formation of a committee to draft a constitutional declaration for the country's transition period. The presidency announced the formation of a committee of experts, including one woman tasked with drafting the constitutional declaration that regulates the transitional phase in Syria. The 7-member committee would submit its proposals to the president, it said in a statement, without specifying a time frame. In late January, al-Shara, leader of Islamic group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, was appointed interim president for an unspecified period. In late January, al-Shara promised a constitutional declaration to serve as a legal reference during the country's transitional period. Sunday's announcement came based on the Syrian people's aspiration in building their state based on the rule of law and building the outcomes of the Syrian National Dialogue Conference, which was said by the presidency. Outlawed Kurdish militants on Saturday declared a ceasefire with Turkey. That came following a landmark call by jailed PKK leader Ahmed Öcalan, asking the group to disband and end more than 4 decades of armed struggle. It was the first reaction from the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, after Öcalan this week called for the dissolution of the group and asked it to lay down the arms. The PKK, designated as a terrorist group by Turkey, the United States and the European Union, has waged an insurgency since 1984 with the aim of carving out a homeland for the Kurds, who account for around 20% of Turkey's 85 million people. But recently the group has called for more autonomy and cultural and linguistic rights rather than independence. Since Öcalan was jailed in 1999, there have been various attempts to end the bloodshed, which cost more than 40,000 lives. In an extraordinary Oval Office meeting on Friday, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to withdraw support for Ukraine 3 years after Russia invaded its smaller neighbor. In London, a crowd cheered as Zelensky arrived for talks with Starmer at the Downing Street office before summit of the European leaders that Ukrainian president will attend on Sunday to discuss a peace plan for Ukraine. More details in the following report.
Everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
An angry White House clash between the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump divided the U.S. President's fellow Republicans and dimmed the prospects that the Congress will approve any further aid for Kiev and the war with Russia. On Saturday, the Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski said there were whispers from the White House that they may try to end all the U.S. support for Ukraine. Other Republicans who had long supported Ukraine lashed out at Zelensky after Friday's exchange, in which Trump and the Vice President, J.D. Vance, berated the Ukrainian leader before the world's media, accusing him of disrespect. Senator Lindsey Graham called for Zelensky to change his tune or resign. just hours after attending a friendly meeting between Zelensky and the dozen senators. Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, who was ambassador to Japan during Trump's first term, posted on X, "The United States of America will no longer be taken for granted." But even as most Republicans rallied behind Trump and Vance, some joined the Democrats in defending Ukraine. New York Representative Mike Lawler, in a post on X, called the Oval Office meeting a missed opportunity for both the United States and Ukraine, an agreement that would undoubtedly result in stronger economic and security cooperation. Representative Tom Bacon, a moderate Republican from Nebraska, threw the support behind Kiev, calling the event a bad day for the American foreign policy. Neither of the Republican lawmakers criticized Trump or Vance.
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment.
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave, but they had to use our military.
What about West
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military...
And meanwhile, Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky said on Sunday that he believed he could salvage his relationship with U.S. President Donald Trump after their explosive meeting in the Oval Office, but that talks needed to continue behind the closed doors. In an extraordinary meeting that was broadcast live on Friday, Trump accused Zelensky of being ungrateful for the U.S. aid, of showing disrespect to his country, and of risking World War III, casting into doubt Washington's ongoing support for Ukraine. Zelensky, talking to reporters after the summit with European leaders in London, he said he did not think the U.S. would stop its assistance to Ukraine because, as leaders of the civilized world, they would not want to help Russian President Vladimir Putin. However, Zelensky said he remained prepared for any challenges that may raise. Zelensky added that he remained ready to sign the proposed minerals deal with the United States and that he believed the U.S. would be ready as well. A group of American citizens and immigrants is suing the Trump administration for ending a long-standing legal tool presidents have used to allow people from countries where there is war or political instability to enter the temporary live in the United States. The lawsuit, filed late on Friday night, seeks to reinstate humanitarian parole programs that allowed in 875,000 migrants from Ukraine, Afghanistan, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua and Venezuela who have legal U.S. residents as sponsors. President Donald Trump has been ending legal pathways for immigrants to come to the U.S. and implementing campaign promises to deport millions of people who are in the U.S. illegally. The plan include 8 immigrants who entered the U.S. legally before the Trump administration ended what it called the broad abuse of humanitarian parole. A U.S. aircraft carrier arrived in South Korea on Sunday in a show of force, days after North Korea test-launched cruise missile to demonstrate its counterattack capabilities. The arrival of the USS Carl Vinson and its strike group at the South Korean port of Busan was meant to display a solid U.S.-South Korean military alliance in the face of persistent North Korean threats and boost interoperation of the allies' combined assets. The deployment of the carrier is expected to infuriate North Korea, which views temporary deployment of such powerful U.S. military assets as major security threats. North Korea has responded to some of the past deployments of the U.S. aircraft carriers, long-range bombers and nuclear-powered submarines with missile tests. Pope Francis remained in stable condition and didn't need any mechanical ventilation. It was a sign that he had overcome the possible complication from a respiratory crisis on Friday and that his breathing function overall was improving as he recovers from double pneumonia. The 88-year-old Pope did continue to receive high-flow supplemental oxygen after Friday coughing episode, which sparked fears of a new lung infection. Doctors in their late Sunday update said Francis remained stable, but again referred to the complexity of his overall condition and kept his prognosis at guarded, meaning he didn't was out of danger yet. And now for our business and finance news, and we'll start where the chief executive of the General Authority of the Suez Canal Zone, Walid Jamaluddin, signed 2 contracts for 2 new textile manufacturing and printing projects in the investment to the tune of $28 million. The projects will be carried out by 2 Chinese companies working in the west of Qantara Industrial Zone. The head of the authority said the SCEZ concluded 14 deals for the projects at West Qantara with total investment of $542.3 million in 20 months. Egypt, top 10 African country with the most seaports and trade terminals in 2025. Africa relies on maritime transport to facilitate trade, serving as a key gateway to the global economy, despite accounting for only 2.7% of the global trade by value. The continent contributes 7% of the global maritime exports and 5% of maritime imports by volume. The growth has been fueled by investments in trade terminals, specialized facilities that handle specific types of cargo, such as containers, oil and bulk commodities. The terminals play a crucial role in improving the logistics efficiency by streamlining the loading, unloading and storage of goods before the distribution. Minister of Transport Kamil El-Wazir held a video conference meeting with Italy's Infrastructure and Transport Minister Matteo Salvini to discuss ways of boosting transportation collaboration between both countries. The meeting held on Saturday was attended by Italian ambassador to Egypt, Michael Quarioni, and host of senior officials. El-Wazir lauded the deeply rooted ties between Egypt and Italy, voicing the ministry's keenness to cement cooperation with local and international private sectors under the directives of President Sisi. Both sides reviewed current discussions between Transport Ministry and Italy's state-owned railway holding company to run and operate the high-speed rail in Egypt and the launch of the Roro line to connect Egypt with Italy. U.S. President Donald Trump announced the names of the 5 digital assets he expects to include in the new U.S. crypto strategy reserve on Monday, spiking the market value of each. Trump said on social media that his January executive order on digital assets would create a stockpile of currencies including Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, SOL and ADA. The names had not previously been announced. The assets rose 8% to 62% in trading on Sunday, while Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency by market value, was up around 8% at $90,828 US. However, Ether, which is the second largest cryptocurrency, was up 8.3% at 2,409. The Republican president won support from the crypto industry in his 2024 election bid and has quickly moved to back their policy priorities under his Democratic predecessor Joe Biden. Regulator cracked down on the industry in a bid to protect the American from fraud and money laundering. The Trump administration sent out a second round of emails evening of Friday demanding of all federal employees summarize their work over the past week after the first effort a week ago fizzled amid a wave of confusing directives. The move marks a renewed push by billionaire Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency team to assess the performance of government employees as the administration looks to mass layoffs to dramatically trim the federal footprint. Musk attempted a similar tack last week, along with a threat that non-compliant workers could be fired. But he was stymied when some agencies, such as the State and Justice Departments, told their employees to stick to their chain of command. Ultimately, OPM informed agencies that responding to the emails was vulnerable, and Musk, with President Donald Trump backing, continued to press for emails as means, they said, to hold workers accountable. Rating agency S&P maintained France's AA- credit score, but revised down its economic outlook following pressure on the public finances and the political strife over the country's budget. The New York-based agency said it could lower the rating on France if the government cannot reduce its large budget deficit further over the next 2 years. In particular, it warned that any weakening of France's 2023 pension reform, which sparked mass-scale protests across the country, could create downward pressure on the ratings. S&P also revised the gross forecast for 2025 down 0.8% from 1%, warning that the fiscal strategy beyond 2025 remains uncertain. China's manufacturing activity expanded at the fastest pace in 3 months in February, as new orders and higher purchases volumes led to a solid rise in production, according to the official factory survey on Sunday. The official purchasing manager index PMI rose to 50.2 in February from 49.1 a month prior, which is the highest since November, and beating analyst forecasts in Reuters poll of 49.9. The reading should reassure officials that fresh stimulus measures launched late last year was helping shore up a patchy recovery in the world's second-largest economy, ahead of China holding its annual paramilitary meeting starting the 5th of March. Chinese policymakers are expected to announce economic targets and fresh policy support next week at the high-profile gathering in Beijing, with investors looking for signs of further support amid the intensifying trade tensions with the United States. And Argentinian President Javier Milei told lawmakers on Sunday that he planned to make more chainsaw cuts to public spending, adding that his government's austerity program could last for years. The Liberian leader in pushing to restore fiscal discipline in South America nation, where he has been present since December 2023. Milei's measures have plunged Argentina into recession. He also called on the legislature to support a new agreement between the government and the International Monetary Fund, which would include a disbursement allowing the country to eliminate currency exchange control this year. And to our technological news, where a private lunar lander carrying a drill and other experimental for NASA touched down on the moon on Sunday, which is the latest in a string of companies looking to kickstart business on Earth's celestial neighbor ahead of astronaut missions. Firefly Aerospace Blue Ghost lander descended from lunar orbit on the autopilot, aiming for the slopes of an ancient volcanic dome in an impact basin on the moon's northeastern edge. Confirmation of successful touchdown came from the company's mission control outside Austin of Texas, making Firefly the first private outfit to put an spacecraft on the moon without crashing. Even countries have faltered, with only 5 claiming success: Russia, the United States, China, India, and Japan. Launched in January from Florida, Blue Ghost lander carried 10 experiments to the moon for NASA. The space agency paid $101 million for the delivery, plus $44 million for science and tech on board. It's a third mission under NASA's commercial lunar delivery program, intended to ignite a lunar economy of competing private businesses before the astronauts show up later this decade. other tourism news, where Egypt launched a promotional campaign showcasing Egypt's enchanting and magic experience during the holy months of Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr. Ramadan in Egypt is a feast for the sense, lantern, glow lights, shimmer, and the air carriers, which is carrying the rich aroma of traditional delicacies. The streets pulse with energy, blending history, spirituality, and festivity into an experience unlike any other. To capture this magic, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities has launched a promotional campaign targeting the Arab market, inviting travelers to experience Egypt during the holy months of Ramadan. The campaign, which runs a month and a half, seeks to attract visitors from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Jordan, Qatar, and Bahrain. It highlights Egypt's diverse tourism offerings, encouraging the Arab travelers to immerse themselves in its unique Ramadan atmosphere.